example, and people will follow them. That is the difference between a leader and a manager. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about. Now, part of this presentation that I told, or being in the hospitality industry, that I told you guys, is if you're in sales or front desk or customer service, you've got to love the industry. You have to have a lot of charisma. You really have to be very outgoing, a people person to be successful. Okay. So vision. So that's why you write a vision statement. So a lot of companies will make you memorize the vision statement, or they have the vision or mission statement on the business card. So they lead by what the vision is. So you as an associate, you want to know what the company is about. What's their end game? What's their goal? What do they want to be? You want to know where can you grow? Where do you fit in the company? Okay. So you want to create synergy amongst your team. You want to make sure that you're organized. You want to make sure that your communication, we said last week, was good listening skills. You want to communicate the message, and you want to be in sync with your employees. A lot of, there's the old argument, are leaders born or leaders made? And many books and people go back and forth. So I think it's a combination of both. I think some people are natural born leaders, and I think people learn also from their mistakes and failures how to lead. Say leadership, good traits, and intelligent. In our business, it's not just about customer service. You have to know profit and loss, balance statements. You have to know your numbers. Okay, good judgment. We're around customers. Last week's lecture, we talked about some issues that come up in catering and sales with people, with contracts, or drinking too much, or not ordering enough food in an event and then expecting you to automatically prepare that food and not buy it or pay for it. Those type of things. We talked about that when we were talking about banquet event order forms. Be optimistic and confident. I always used to tell managers that I was training, make a decision, whether it's right or wrong, make a decision and stick with it. Don't be wishy-washy, or don't say, well, I got to call so-and-so, or I got to get permission, or I have to do that. That's not good leadership. That's what it means about confidence. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make the wrong decisions. You might get scolded for making the wrong decision, but at least to your associates and people that report to you, you're making a decision. Okay, reality means that, hey, you might be given a certain budget to work within. You want to, spend more money. You would like to do more, but you're given a budget that you have to maintain and work within. And the reality is, if you're going to be a good leader or a good manager, you can't go to your associates and say, oh, we don't have enough money, we can't do this. Because whatever your view is, whatever your vision or your attitude is, it's going to rub off on your employees. And attitude comes from the top down. If everyone's got bad attitude, or they don't like their job and everyone's unhappy, it starts from the top down. Many people don't know what the budget is. They don't know you can't spend more. They don't know unless you go and tell them that. Okay, good leaders are self-starting. In other words, you want the objectives, you want the game plan, you want the time frame, you want a bullet list of what's expected, but let me do it. Let me get it done. Not everyone achieves things and get things done the same, especially many of your generation here in class. That's what you expect. My generation, my bosses were all World War II, ex-World War II people, where they expected you to clock in and clock out, and they expected you to sit at a desk. Even if you had nothing to do and no task, you had to clock in and clock out. Well, the new generation today is, give me that task, give me that list. I'll get it done. I'll get it done within the timeline, and when I'm done, I'm done. And that to me is a better, people are more happy. They're actually learning now, with everything going on with COVID, people are getting more done at home, more accomplished at home than they were with all the wasted time at the job. And they're calling it around the water cooler. They're saying people that stand around the water cooler at work are getting less done. People now are getting due dates and things done on a timely manner because they're given the parameters, they're given the guidelines, they're working at their own time from home, and they're getting their projects done. To me, that's what I would be looking for. Now, sometimes in our business, you can't, because you're a restaurant manager, you're a chef, you have to be there at those certain shifts. But there are goals and things that we have to do when we're writing new menus, when we're looking for new vendors, when we're trying to get new prices and getting bids on prices. You know, these kind of things that you, if you know the time frame that you have to have them done, and when you have to present them to the committee or to the task force you're on, you have to be self-starting and motivated. You have to get the job done. And our industry is very frustrating. There's so many parameters, there's so many different things to manage. So you have to learn how to take things one day at a time. You have to learn to move on. If things don't go your way, you have to change. Chefs have learned how to adapt. If you work with a really good executive chef or food and beverage person, they learn how to change and adapt with the parameters and situations. Okay, you guys don't really have to study transactional and transitional leadership and transformational. What these basically mean that there are certain people that motivate people. There are certain people that are introverts and extroverts. How many ever you worked with a manager that's an introvert and they never tell you what's going on? They hold everything in, and you got to really pry it out of them. Anyone?
Me.
Thelma?
Mm-hmm.
Can you share that with the class?
Yeah, even though at work, we don't know what's going on in the company actually. You have to go and ask, and I'm usually the one. I'm usually the one that asks. I need to know what's going on all the time.
Yeah, so especially if you're in catering, sales, and banquets, you have to know everything that's going on and communicate. I've worked with general managers before that held things in, they didn't share things. We had VIP guests coming in, they wanted in-room placements, and no one placed the order, or they said they told someone, they never told anybody, and we're running around. I've had sales managers that said they wrote up BEOs and submitted them, and we have an F&B meeting, and there's no BEO, and then we go and have a surprise pop-up BEO. So introvert managers usually do not provide motivation. Most introverts are accountants, comptrollers, or people that are behind the scenes and are numbers people. Okay, transformational leader is someone that they
prefer to work by themselves, really.
I'm sorry.
I said they prefer to work by themselves. Those introverts, yes,
that's correct.
Yeah, they prefer to work by themselves. Yeah.
Excuse me for a second. I gotta send this text out. Okay, so those are different type of there. All right, so transformation and action, Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, and Mahatma Gandhi. So charismatic leaders. Some of the best hospitality leaders were charismatic, especially in sales. I worked with some of the best sales people that they wanted to be involved in the food and beverage operations, that they wanted to be involved with everything going on. So the authoritarian approach. Can anyone give me an example of when the authoritarian approach would be needed in our industry? When would you have to be authoritarian in our business?
I guess when it comes to food safety, when there's no room for mistakes, when people's health are on the line, you have to be firm, I guess.
Okay, so you have to be firm. There's no, in food safety, there's no, you being laissez-faire, oh, well, don't worry about it. Oh, that's okay, or that kind of thing. Any other example, Thelma, in banquets, caterings? When did you have to be authoritarian?
When you have to make firm decisions on certain things like um, on the menu, pricing, stuff like that. You can't be, oh, maybe I can try this, maybe I can try that. You have to be firm.
Well, for me, it was when the kitchen couldn't get the food out.
Oh, that too. Well,
so
you have a kitchen, but when it's delivery time for me. You have to take the stuff to deliver to the other persons.
Yeah, people are not.
Or can I say, like, when you control what is going on, like all the activities and stuff?
Well, you're going into a kitchen and the guests are waiting in the dining room and you can't get the food out, and everyone's laissez-faire, taking their time out. That's when you have to go in like a general and start delegating.
Oh, yeah.
So I would have to go on the line and start taking things over as a director of food and beverage and start telling people, I want you over here, I want you doing this.
Right.
So in hotels, you have the big conveyor belts where you plate the food, and you would say, you serve this, you serve that, you bring me hot plates over. Anyone in a position now where they have to be authoritarian?
I used to do that, like, based on what you just explained. I remember when I was working at Walmart as a customer service when the line were busy. So I didn't just stay there at customer service because I had to help the line. So I was like, help me out in this, and then I'll jump, like teamwork.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, so what I'm getting at is there are certain times of these types of leadership when you have to be one of them. So an authoritarian or dictator is not good all the time, but there are few times when you have to be like that. And a good example is in high pressure, high stressful, when you're trying to get something done, or a guest is unsatisfied, or you might have engineering, something's broken in the room, and the engineer says, well, I'm going to take care of building so and so, and I'll be over there. And you might have to, as a manager, say, no, you need to get over there right now. This is a priority, and that's authoritarian.
Well, that's a strong word, though, Professor. I think I would just say I'm just very practical and very fair.
Well, practical it is a good term, but again, these are leadership styles that are written by authors, and
I know
there are many different books, and there's so many written research papers and books and studies and different things on these topics, and case studies. So this is how they categorize them. So basically, what we're saying is an authoritarian dictator won't get anything on anybody. And you don't want to be that type of person all the time.
Cool. People get their back up when you start behaving like that. People get their back up and they don't want to listen after a while. If you behave like that all the time.
Well, I gave you a couple examples where you had to be there too. So let's say the opposite, laissez-faire. You're taking your time. In the food and beverage industry, time is the essential. The clock is your worst enemy. So that means you can't just put a banquet, the guests are sitting down at noon and they have to have the plates in front of them by noon. You can't just say the kitchen's backed up and this is for a banquet, and we can't get it out. We have another banquet we have to plate. They'll get in a half hour.
You don't want to hear.
No, it doesn't work that way. So what I'm trying to say is that there's certain times when you have to be authoritarian, but laissez-faire is the opposite, where you can't be laissez-faire at certain times, okay, and things like that. So being a leader or a manager too, people don't want, associates do not want their manager to be their friend. Associates want to know, what is my job? What do you want from me? What time do you want me to come in? When can I leave? Those type of things. They don't want someone to come in and be their bud and, hey, don't worry about coming in or come in late or things like that. Or they go out partying with them. And the other side of that is a manager doesn't want an associate like that, because what if you have an associate that's supposed to open or close and you become friends with them? They're going to start taking advantage of you and saying, well, I'm not coming in tonight. I was out too late last night, those kind of things. So you need to be straight and on the narrow to be a good manager. So the participatory approach means that you're not enabling people. You're not empowering them. It means you'd rather say, I'd rather do this myself instead of, teaching you how to do it or showing you the right way. It gets done better myself. Well, in large organizations or operations, you can't do that. You need to train people and surround yourself with the best people, because you'll be swamped. You'll be overwhelmed. Because there's a lot of things that go on, and a lot of moving parts in a hotel operation. So self-fulfilling prophecy. Positive expectations will bring about good results. Negative expectations will bring about negative results. Encourage your employees to contribute to the decision making. So decision making is, if you're writing a new menu, create a committee of people. I brought people in from all different departments to create a committee to write new menus or new themes for new restaurants. I involved many different people, and they got all excited about that. One thing we also did was we had a monthly employee luncheon, and we tried to schedule it. Not everyone could make it there, but we tried to schedule on a regular basis where we would give out employee awards. And the awards weren't just like a plaque and a pat on the back. The awards were things that they would want. A 2-day day trip, maybe a spa day trip, things like that. You have to encourage. Okay, so if you isolate yourself from your employees and you have a negative attitude and you're authoritarian, they are not going to want to work for you. They're not going to get things done. They're not going to feel like they're included. They're going to be unhappy, because you're having a narrow vision, and you might be one of those people that take that attitude. If I do it myself, things get done better. Most accessible, make yourself more accessible as a manager. Encourage, empower, interact with your employees. More meetings, more team building things off property. Do more team building events, things like that, and expose yourself. If you're a manager that's just sitting in an office and yelling out the door, you're not going to be successful. You need to be on the floor. I was a director of operations.
And teach.
I was all over that property. And teach. That's right.
And teach.
Mm-hmm. Teach. And that's why in some of my classes, I have people write training manuals, because that's teaching. Those are classes. Those are workshops.
I hate working with people that tell you, it's okay. You ask them to tell you something. Oh, I'll do it. I hate working with people like that. They don't impart knowledge.
I'll do it.
Yeah, no impart. They don't impart knowledge at all.
Yeah. Well, I would always write a plan for anyone that was on my team, and they said, hey, I want to be, a chef, a sous chef. I want to be a catering manager. I want to do this. I would always write a plan and have them work and train in areas that would help them get to their goals. You're not going to keep them around forever. If you don't inspire people and they don't see how they're going to grow within the company, they'll go somewhere else. I used to, when I first started in the industry, conventions and banquets were huge. So Marriott trained the best people. But at this particular time, Marriott didn't pay well. You cap out. And they would leave you at that ceiling where you capped out, and they didn't promote. So when Marriott had excellent banquet cooks and banquet chefs trained, I'd go over and steal them. I'd give them bigger bonus packages, pay them better, and they were trained. They'd come in and run my kitchens for, for larger sums and bigger banquets. And I promoted them. And some of them went on to be sous chefs and executive chefs. Now, I'm going back years ago. Things have since changed. But that's because they didn't take care of those people well. And they used to poach people like that. Okay. So if you're a leader, one thing is don't tell people you're going to do something and don't do it. Don't promise and follow up. Don't, wiggle the carrot, and not do anything. Okay, a lot of leaders like that. They promise people they'll get promoted, they'll get a bonus, or so-and-so is retiring, you'll have their position. They'll never do that. Or there's an opening at a sister property across town, and they're looking for a certain person, you could get promoted. And they don't follow up. That's the worst thing you could do for an employee, because within a month, they'll be gone. And the other thing we just said, leaders must realize they cannot be everywhere at once. You have to train, empower, and delegate, and follow up. Okay, so here, and I was over the whole property. I was the director of operations of the retail shops, everything. First thing I did was I put my whites on and I went into the luau kitchen and started working with everyone in the kitchen. That's where the base was. You had 3,000 people coming in to eat off the buffets. You had servers coming in, bartenders, that whole operation worked right there. Now, at first they thought I was taking their jobs and they were gonna lose their jobs, and they were from the islands. So they started talking Pidgin, and Pidgin is it's like a language that is made up by the islanders, and only certain words and languages that they would know that regular people wouldn't know unless you lived on the islands for a long period of time. But once they got to trust me and know me, I knew everything that they needed. I knew they needed a new walk-in cooler. I knew that they needed a new freezer. I knew they needed a new van. All these things that were promised them that never happened. Within 6 months, I had all those things done for them. They were doing so many meals and they were slacking stuff out in the heat because they didn't have nowhere to put the finished product. So we got new walk-in coolers, new freezers. We got all kinds of equipment for them. We started doing culinary training classes. And next thing you know, when I first started working there, that place, everyone said, stay away from there, don't work. That's one of the worst places to work at. When I left to go to another property to consult, and it was a brand new property opening up, the Kaloa Landing Marriott, that property was known at Gaylord's Kalamaku Luau. Everybody wanted to work there. Best tips, best working conditions, brand new equipment, everything. Because when you're working on an island, you have to understand when things go to this island, there's only 70,000 residents. So if something goes there, it has to come by ship. So everything's outdated. It's old equipment. It's all used stuff. Held together with bubble gum and Band-Aids. So it's not like you just can say, hey, let's get all this stuff. It's got to be shipped from California mainland. But these are examples of leadership and management skills that we're talking about. And I always tell new interns or students or people that are taking over, what you do when you go on a new property is just observe. Take a lot of notes and listen. Don't start making changes right away. You start making changes and things right away, then people are going to be upset because it might be right or wrong the way they're doing something. They've been doing it that way for 20 years. You're not going to change them. I've had people that have been doing the same job, especially in these big resorts, same job for years. And they're going to be doing the same job for years after you, because the average executive manager only lasts in a hotel 4 to 5 years before they transfer within the company. Does anyone know why a company would transfer you after 45 years? 4 to 5 years? Anyone have any ideas?
I'm sorry, why they would transfer you?
Yeah, that you get promoted or transferred. Like you're a food and beverage director or general manager. Within most companies, you're only on that property.
Get too comfortable in the company.
Yeah, within the company. Why would they transfer you? It's an industry standard. Why would they do that?
They don't want you to get too comfortable at that company. They try to.
That's right, Thelma. But why would that be a problem? Getting too comfortable?
Because after a while you get lax. You get too. I don't want to say too friendly, but
you're right. You get too lax. But what else? What have we been talking about? what have we been talking about as far as what's the most important thing I've been telling you guys you have to know? Your numbers.
Give your numbers.
So what happens, as Thelma said, they get too lax. They start trusting other people.
Yeah.
You're
not paying attention.
Give their job away.
Yeah.
They become more, out on the golf course or out in the dining room, or they're, whining and dining and things like that, where they lose control of their operation. And so that's become the norm in the industry. Take it one step further is they know the operation, and they start putting their own little systems in place where people are getting more bonus and people are making more money, and other situations have happened where embezzlement and things like that. So they know if you get too comfortable, it's time to move you or promote you. That's why if you're
Publix does that. Publix does that.
Almost every hotel
Yeah,
company.
that's what they do. Each manager
Hilton.
stays at a supermarket for like 3, 4, sometimes the top they stay there is like 3.5 years to 4, or even less, and then they move them to a different area. As soon as they start getting too comfortable, they move them around. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the
Or
same if
the
you're
lateral move.
If you're a supervisor, let's say a restaurant supervisor, and a restaurant manager position opens up, or a director of food and beverage opens up in a large property, and you happen to be promoted, they're not going to promote you within your own property.
No.
They're going to promote you and move you to another property.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Sometimes it's a test. I think sometimes it's a test. Sometimes they want to see how best you can manage a new situation.
Well, how are your associates going to react to you if you're a host or hostess or floor supervisor and you're going to be the restaurant manager? How is your associates going to react to you? Your fellow